My Sinister Harry Potter crossover short story, Harry Potter and the Babylonian Deity. Chapter 5, The Box in the Basement. Year 1996. It was the week before Dudley's 9th birthday. Petunia Dursley planned a day-long outing with her son to get him out of the house so that her husband could bring in all his presents, wrap them, and find hiding places for them until the special day. For Dudley, the celebration started early, not only because of the fun day his mother had planned, but she would also no doubt buy him some more presents while they were out. As part of Harry's punishment for turning his teacher's hair blue, he had to help move stuff from the storage room to the basement and attic. However, even if he hadn't been in trouble, he wouldn't have been invited along on the outing. Harry never was allowed to participate in family recreation. The Dursleys arranged for Mrs. Figg to babysit him, the neighborhood cat lady. Next to Christmas, Dudley's birthday was a date Harry always hated. It was the perfect opportunity to show him everything that he was denied by the Dursleys, which they flaunted in excess. It wasn't even the gifts that really upset Harry the most. He wanted someone to celebrate his birthday because he wanted to feel like someone wanted him, was glad that he had been born, that he mattered. The Dursleys always made him feel like an unwelcome guest who had overstayed his visit. He was never included in family activities. He was never introduced as a member of the family. They didn't even have pictures of him. Just when he thought it couldn't be any worse, Uncle Vernon announced, "Marge is coming to visit. She'll arrive on Wednesday." Harry's depression deepened. He hated Uncle Vernon's sister, and the antipathy was reciprocated. Whenever she visited, she made Harry's life even more miserable than it already was. What was worse is that he couldn't even retreat to his cupboard, which was where the Dursleys preferred him to be when he wasn't doing chores. Aunt Marge always wanted him around so she could keep an eye on him. She constantly accused him of things he didn't do so that he'd get into trouble. Aunt Marge was a big supporter of not sparing the rod, at least when it came to Harry, and it seemed to Harry that she got pleasure in watching him get beaten, and often she wanted to get in a few blows herself. Harry usually couldn't sit down comfortably for 2 weeks after her visit. "You," Uncle Vernon thrust his finger into Harry's face, "you will be on your best behavior around Marge. I don't want a repeat of that business you pulled on her last visit." Dudley snickered. "Yes, sir," Harry replied glumly. Vernon stared at Harry threateningly with his beady eyes and said, "Well, off you go then. You have a lot of work to do." Harry slept in the cupboard, which seemed to get smaller every year. This arrangement wasn't due to the Dursleys not having enough room. The spacious house had 4 bedrooms. Vernon and Petunia Dursley had one, Dudley had another, and there was a guest bedroom that was used by Aunt Marge when she visited, and another room that was used for storage. The storage room could be considered Dudley's other bedroom, for it contained all the toys he couldn't fit into his own overflowing bedroom. Many of the toys were not even played with. Either Dudley lost interest in them or he broke them. However, he would have a tantrum if they were thrown out, and certainly no one would dream of giving them to Harry, even the broken ones. As a result, they would be placed in the storage room. Then, when his parents needed to make room for his new presents, they would move the contents of the storage room to the attic or basement. Generally, broken toys went to the attic and all the rest went to the basement. Dudley's presents would be hidden in the storage room until his parents brought them out the night before his birthday after he went to bed. Harry was always surprised that Dudley never discovered them in the storage room prematurely, but he never went in there. The problem was the Dursleys gave Dudley an incredible amount of presents each birthday and Christmas, and they never threw any of them away. The attic and basement contained toys that Dudley had from the time he was 4 years old. Each year it got harder to find a place for more toys. Pretty soon they would run out of room, and Harry wondered what they would do then. Would they finally throw some of the toys out, or would they buy a new house? Harry wouldn't put it past them to do just that. Aunt Petunia and Dudley left. Uncle Vernon, after making sure Harry was doing what he was supposed to, went to read the newspaper in the living room, enjoying the peace and quiet. Harry climbed up the stairs and downstairs, carrying boxes of discarded toys from the storage room. Spiders tickled his forehead when he went to the attic, and rats hissed when he went down into the basement. As the attic was getting too full for anything except the smallest of toys, Harry made more trips to the basement. He had just put down a heavy box that contained a train set when he heard a tinkling sound. He frowned as he searched the dimly lit basement for the source of the sound. Suddenly, he thought he heard footsteps, and not from the rats. These sounded human. Was that a giggle he just heard? He shook his head. My mind is playing tricks on me. There is nobody down here but me. Suddenly he heard another sound, and he saw a wind-up robot walking across the basement floor. He didn't recognize it as one of Dudley's toys, but then he remembered where it came from. It had been a toy that belonged to a neighbor's child. The child's mother had accused Dudley of stealing it when he visited their house. The Dursleys had been outraged by the accusation, and even though Harry had never stepped foot in the house and actually had been locked in the cupboard at the time, they blamed him for the theft. Frowning, Harry walked over to the little robot, wondering what had started it. Just as he went to pick it up, he heard the tingling sound again, and it was close by. He followed the sound until he discovered the source, a child's piano. Harry remembered that. Aunt Marge had given it to Dudley for his 5th birthday, and he had quite a tantrum over it, saying music was for sissies. Harry remembered being excited, thinking this time Dudley had gone too far in reacting in such a rude manner over Aunt Marge's gift. Certainly Aunt Marge would be offended, particularly as it was an expensive gift. However, Aunt Marge had laughed, and so had the Dursleys. They applauded Dudley for being a little man, and then Aunt Marge had taken him out to the store to get a gift he liked better. Harry remembered that later he had played on the little piano. He was still too little to understand his place at the Dursley house, and he thought they wouldn't mind if he played with a toy Dudley didn't want. Aunt Marge had stormed in and slammed her cane on his finger so hard that she broke 2 of them. Remembering the pain, Harry grimaced and unconsciously touched the old injury. He frowned as the piano kept playing. He didn't remember that it had the ability to play by itself. After a quick look upstairs to make sure no one was there, Harry came closer to inspect it. As he neared, it stopped playing. When he picked it up, he noticed the box it was sitting on. It had a strange symbol painted on the top of it. On the side, it said Home Movies. Harry put the piano on the floor and opened the box. Inside, there was a movie projector and several reels. He picked up one of the reel canisters. On the front, someone had written Lawn Work 86. Harry took a sharp breath. That was the year before he was born. I wonder if my parents are in any of these. Maybe I could find out what they looked like. Harry didn't know what his parents looked like. The Dursleys didn't have any pictures of them, and they had yelled at him when he asked. All you need to know about your parents, boy, is that they were good-for-nothing drunks that got themselves killed, Vernon had shouted at him the last time he had asked. Harry always wondered which parent he looked like. He always wished he could see them so he could imagine them better. He liked to imagine a life where they hadn't died and he had grown up in a loving family. Of course, he didn't know if his parents had been good parents that cared about him. The Dursleys definitely never indicated that, but then again, they wouldn't. Harry wished he had both the time and the knowledge to set up the projector so he could see the movies, but he didn't. The Dursleys always locked him in the cupboard after he'd finished his chores. For all he knew, it may not even work. Boy, what are you doing down there? Uncle Vernon's voice carried down from above. I was just moving some things around to make room, Uncle Vernon, Harry called up as he quickly shut the box and put the piano back on top of it. Well, get a move on. We don't have all day. Petunia and Dudley will be back in time for dinner. Yes, Uncle Vernon. Harry took a step and tripped on the robot. He picked it up and looked at it longingly. He didn't dare pocket it, though. The Dursleys sometimes did raids on the cupboard to make sure Harry wasn't hoarding food or toys he had taken from Dudley. With regret, he set the robot down on the box.